Welcome to The Explainer. All right, if you're a dive professional, you already know that dive computers are one of the most critical and, let's be honest, profitable pieces of gear you sell. So today, we're going to break down a massive survey on dive computer users to give you some real, actionable insights you can use to fine-tune your sales strategy and, well, boost your bottom line. Let's start with the single most important number from this entire study, 97.8%. That is the percentage of all divers, we're talking tech and rec, everybody, who say quality is a critical factor when they're buying a dive computer. You've got to remember this number. It changes how you should think about every single sale. And this leads us to the golden rule for selling these things. You have to stop selling on price. Look, your customers are buying a piece of life support equipment, and they get that. You're not selling them some flashy gadget. You are selling dependability. And here's the data that just proves it. While that huge 97.8% of divers are all about quality, just look at price. It's a top priority for only about 38% of rec divers and just 26.5% of tech divers. That massive gap you see there, that's your opportunity. That's your permission to lead the conversation with features and reliability, because that's what your customers are already focused on. So while pretty much everyone agrees that quality is king, that's kind of where the similarities end. You are serving two very, very different markets, and really understanding the unique profiles of the technical diver versus the recreational diver, well, that's the key to stocking the right inventory and actually closing the sale. Let's kick things off with the tech diver. On average, a technical diver owns 3.2 dive computers. Now, this isn't just about having the latest gear. This is a deep investment in redundancy and having specific tools for specific kinds of dives. This is a customer who buys often and owns multiples. Now, let's contrast that with the recreational diver. On average, they own about 2 computers. I mean, it's still a serious investment, but it signals a completely different mindset. They'll have a primary and maybe a backup, but they aren't building an arsenal of specialized gear in the same way a tech diver is. And this difference in ownership, well, it translates directly to spending. In just the last 12 months, the average tech diver spent $703 on computers, while the rec diver spent $481. That's almost 50% more. So while the rec market is bigger in terms of sheer numbers of people, the tech market is without a doubt more valuable on a per-customer basis. So let's really build out the profile of your most valuable customer, the tech diver. If you want to capture a piece of that $700 a year spend, you need to know exactly what they're looking for. And when it comes to brands, the tech market isn't really a competition. It's more like a monarchy. A staggering 79.1% of tech divers use a Shearwater as their primary computer. That is just total market dominance. So for a shop that serves tech divers, stocking Shearwater, it isn't a choice. It's an absolute requirement. And when you're talking to a tech diver, these are your keywords. It's not just about depth and time. It is all about the specific decompression algorithm, how much you can customize it, and its proven ability to handle trimix. These are the specs that build trust and make that premium price tag feel completely justified. This quote from the survey just perfectly captures the tech diver's mindset. See, they're not passive users. They are active pilots of their dive. They demand deep customization and control, especially over things like gradient factors, so they can fine-tune the computer's algorithm to match their personal dive philosophy. Okay, now let's flip it and contrast all of that with the recreational diver. This is likely the bulk of your customer base, and it represents the biggest growth market out there. Their needs are just as important, but they are fundamentally different. The brand landscape here is way more competitive. While Shearwater still leads with an impressive 51.5%, you've got legacy brands like Suunto that are still a major force at over 20%. So what does that mean for your shop? It means for rec divers, you need a broader inventory. There's a lot more competition for their wrist space. And their priorities? They couldn't be clearer. While the tech diver is focused on the nitty-gritty of the algorithm, the recreational diver is way more interested in convenience. Over half of them rate wireless air integration as important, and almost half care about the physical size of the unit. Is it comfortable? Can it double as a watch? These are the key selling points for this group. This quote here, it reveals a totally different approach to customization. A recreational diver isn't trying to fine-tune some complex decompression theory. They're trying to make the computer line up with what they learned in their open water course. They just want the device to match the tables and rules from their training agency, which is a really practical and understandable goal. Okay, so we know the who. Now let's talk about the what's next. What does all this data tell us about the future? And what are some trends you can act on right now?
There's one feature that a lot of industry veterans kind of dismissed as a gimmick for years, but the data shows it has quietly become an absolute must-have for your core recreational market.
And the answer is the electronic compass. Over 30% of recreational divers, that's more than tech divers, by the way, now actively use it. This is no longer a gimmick. It's a core feature. And if you aren't demoing the compass function during a sale, you are missing a huge opportunity. So what's on the horizon? Well, this is basically your customer's wish list. GPS navigation is the #1 request across both groups, which tells you people want more surface functionality. Beyond that, rec divers want convenient stuff like vibration alarms, while tech divers are asking for highly specific tools like integrated rebreather checklists and bailout modes. And this brings us to our final point. And honestly, it's the biggest disruption of all. The most significant evolution in wrist technology isn't coming from the dive industry. It's coming straight out of Silicon Valley. The survey itself flags the entry of smartwatches from tech giants like Apple. Now, this isn't just a new competitor, it's a whole new category that could fundamentally expand the market. These devices could bring thousands of casual divers into the fold, people who then might become your customers for their first dedicated dive computer. So the question you have to ask is your business ready? The line between a dive computer and a smartwatch is vanishing. And knowing your customers, the hardcore tech diver on one hand and the convenience-focused rec diver on the other, is the only way you're going to thrive as the device on every diver's wrist continues to evolve.